Are the cameras rolling? Fucking rolling.
Sam David leaving the building. Oh my God, he's coming back. Oh, the paranoia? Paranoia. Good to go? Have you recorded both of them? Are you sure? 100%? Okay.
Are all your podcasts like this?
Huh?
Are all your podcasts like this?
The start?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like chaotic?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's stressful, man. All you have to do is sit down and fucking... Welcome back to the Future Self podcast. Welcome to season 4, episode 4. We're in Bali, staying international at the home crib where I am staying for some time. Now, of course, linked up with my fucking boy, Max.
I'm here.
He's here. We've done, obviously, a podcast before. For anyone who is a new listener and recently tuning in, it's so wild to actually look back at that podcast. We were listening to just little bits of it before, and in it you actually expressed about Torian not making it the year before and things like that. But we're here. This one, just going to be more chill. I definitely like the high quality and the high production of the recent ones that have launched. Not to say that this isn't going to be high quality or high value.
Look, dude, I understand. It's all good.
But going on with the trend that we have been going on with, we're going to do 10 rapid fire questions because it's one of my most favorite things that I've been adding into the podcast. We're not going to go one for one like the episode you guys would have tuned into the other week. This one's going to be I'll ask 10 and then Max, you'll ask your 10. Okay? All right, just quickly with the off the cusp 10 questions, they're supposed to be fast and rapid. So there's a bit of vulnerability in the first thing that you think of, they pop in your head. Now you can join along. Anyone who is listening on Spotify or if you're watching on YouTube, join in and you can answer these questions yourself. Some of them are a bit specific to Max, of course, but the ones that aren't, answer them on the fly and see what your answer is yourself. So number 1, a sad moment you think of for me not being at home over the past couple months.
You not seeing me at the semi-finals in Queensland.
Okay. Yeah, that fucked me up too.
Yeah, that was heavy for both of us.
Just, I always say this 10 rapid fire and then I end up elaborating on it. But I remember being in Barcelona and I was walking down the street and I had the most watery eyes ever watching the live stream of the event that you, like the Heat win that you had. And I was just crying, walking, proud, sad, stoked for you, but also upset. It was like the biggest mix of emotions I'd ever had. Number 2, what situation was the hardest you've mentally pushed through?
Probably realizing I hadn't made it to semi. If you're talking about recent, probably realizing I hadn't made semis and seeing myself at 50th on the leaderboard. That was pretty heavy to process.
Yeah, because what place makes it?
Top 40.
So 10 places shifted for you to get there.
10 places, yeah.
All for a reason, hey?
Yeah, all for a reason.
Number 3, at what point did doing CrossFit feel like your thing? Of course, when we first started gym, that was our thing. And then the way I took it, it kind of became a little bit more my thing.
Yeah.
At what point for CrossFit did you realize like, yeah, this is my thing?
I think like only elaborating a little bit on that. At school, I was never really good at anything. I was always just average at footy, average at the athletics carnival, swimming carnival. I was never like really good at anything. So I think when I came to CrossFit or started up at CrossFit and I'd excelled in quite a few little things like quite well, I was like, first time I had a feeling like, oh, like this is kind of my thing. Like this, I'm actually good at this type of thing. So yeah.
Fuck yeah. Number 4, what makes you the most happiest?
My partner, Julia.
When
That
I was
was easy. That was easy.
When I was writing this question, I was thinking there's an answer he has to say, but I'm hoping that's the answer he wants to say as well. Number 5, being always the happy kid. Can you recall the moment that you realized life isn't as innocent as that and it's okay for things to fluctuate?
Yeah, obviously I've always been the happy kid and put on the persona of the happy kid because I always am like quite happy. But I think when I started bottling up emotions, and Yulia's helped me a lot with this, being okay to not be that happy kid all the time. Still working on it now, but definitely just being able to let out, finding someone close like her, even yourself, to let out emotions in front of. That's been massive.
Yeah, I love that. Number 6, would you rather forever do CrossFit, but not in a competitive sense, or change the sport completely to another competitive sport?
I'd change to another competitive sport.
So it's the competition and competing that it is for you.
Yeah, I love both, but the competing side is the guts of it.
So elaboration of a part two of that question, what sport would you substitute it with?
It's just I'd probably find an Olympic sport. I'd love to find an Olympic sport especially after watching the Olympics of a recent. Just finding a niche Olympic sport would be awesome. Not sure which one, whether it be on the track or something like the canoe. I'd definitely find an Olympic sport. I think that'd be my next thing.
Yeah. Okay. Number 7. What is the dollar figure per week for you not to pursue your dreams? Now, naturally, your inclination answer would be no money. But if you were offered any amount that you could physically think of, what would that be?
My dream being
Just your dreams, whether it's career, whether it's CrossFit, whether it's making the games. How much would you have to get paid to not pursue that dream?
there isn't an amount of money you'd be able to pay me. There just isn't. I don't think.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
I figured that might be your answer, but I just didn't want you to jump to that straight away.
Yeah.
Because, if someone offered you $10 billion right now, jet skiing in Greece is probably up there with pursuing a dream, but the lack of fulfillment would be what would be present.
Yeah, money's just not enough of a drive for me to let go of something I'm passionate about.
I definitely respect that. Number 8, was top 40 in Oceania, Torian, a made it moment or a starting moment?
Bit of both. So, because it'd been such a goal for me in the past 2-3 years, it was a big I've made it moment. And then once I got there, it's like, okay, now it's a starting moment. So, just to build up.
Nice. Number 9, a moment that instantly comes to your mind where you've majorly doubted yourself.
I'd say something like quarterfinals.
During it?
Yeah, during quarterfinals. Probably halfway through when I knew I wasn't doing too good on events, I pretty much threw in the towel and said, like, there's no way I can make it. Like, it's impossible now. I kept saying to myself, like, I can't make it now. I've already fucked it. And it was Luke de Jong was the one person who said, hey, anything can happen. You can still make it. Don't give up now. And thank fuck I didn't.
Dude, goosebumps on my leg.
Yeah.
Love that. That's actually the only reason that, because goosebumps for me is just when I line to something or connect to something. The only reason I like that so much is because it's such a standard and common situation of pursuing something, there being a hurdle or a roadblock, and then stopping. Whether it's business, weight loss, relationships, whether it's X, Y, and Z, it's so common that when things are smooth sailing, people chase it. And then when it's a little bit bumpy, there is that determining moment. If you're someone who pushes through, you're more than likely going to be the successor. But if you don't, you're guaranteed to fail or not make it. Number 10, last one before you ask me my 10. A moment that instantly comes to your mind where you felt proud of yourself.
I hate relating it all back to CrossFit. Obviously, that consumes a lot of my life. Just finishing the weekend up in Queensland and seeing like friends and family in the crowd, like that was a big everything moment for me. That was huge.
Did you have any moment where you were walking out and you caught a certain person and you just was like, holy fuck?
As soon as I walked out, I remember running out of the tunnels, seeing Jake, Souls, and Yulia, my girlfriend, in the crowd together, screaming at me. That was like, it's in my head so clearly, like the row they're sitting in, everything. Like that was yeah, that was pretty hectic. That was awesome.
It's obviously haven't done anything like that, but because we've grown so much of you chasing your dreams, I can just weirdly and clearly picture that, like that feeling of euphoria you would have had running out, the whole arena, the whole cheering,
firework, like that flames and everything. It's hectic.
That's madness.
Hey,
all right, you're up.
All right, you're up. Quick fire questions.
You can sit back. You can relax. There you go. It's more chill.
Yeah, good posture.
There you go.
All right, number 1, favorite meal so far in Bali, like your go-to meal.
Yeah. Just a chicken rice bowl.
Yeah, I knew it.
Yeah, chicken rice. I thought of fruit for a moment, but chicken rice bowl, just because it's so cheap. It's like $6, and it's just super convenient.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, I came to Bali, maybe 3 days ago. Yulia had planned for us to go to Sunshine Coast, And then on the morning of traveling up to the airport, we drove past the domestic terminal and said we're actually going to Bali. I was like, oh my God, we ended up getting to Bali. And then she was like, we should surprise Guy. I was like, oh, that'll be so good. I haven't seen him in like 4 or 5 months. We'll surprise him while we're over there. I was planning out this surprise, and this bloke had been messaging me going, oh, when are you going to come to Bali? And even on the day I was in Bali, he's like, oh, send us a FaceTime. Show us your place in Queensland. And I was like, oh, like we only just arrived at the airport. Like we only just landed, and it'd been like a 7-8 hour flight. Obviously it doesn't take that long to get to Queensland. Anyway, we got to the villa, and anyway, I was on the toilet, and I came out. As soon as I came out, he was standing there and just surprised me. It was insane. And the first thing we ordered was a chicken rice bowl.
Yeah.
It was always relating back, but yeah, first go to me, we looked at each other, said, want to get a rice bowl?
Yeah,
we got a rice bowl.
One of the best things, because I knew for about a month, over the course of the month, I kept baiting him by saying, come over to Bali, let's do a boys trip. Why wouldn't you come over? You're dogging me. This is so slack. But the whole time I knew. So he was either feeling guilty or, he was preparing for, being somewhere else. And it was so funny, even just playing the character of, I was like, have a safe flight and let me know when you land. I don't know if he clocked onto it or not, but like you just said, when he landed, he messages me 8 hours later. He's like, just landed. And I was like, dude, the fact that a flight to Queensland probably takes 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours, but that you didn't clock onto the idea of, just landed and it's 8 hours difference.
Yeah, that was hectic. Everyone around me knew except me, but she kept a good surprise. 4 weeks she kept for us. It was amazing.
It was sick. It was so good.
All right, question 2. Is living overseas everything you thought it would be?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is everything I thought it would be, but there's parts of it that I didn't know I would love so much or value so much before experiencing it. But there's nothing that's popped up where I didn't expect it or I wasn't necessarily mentally prepared for it.
Yeah, right. Is that mostly in Bali or Europe as well?
Oh, Europe was fucking hard. So actually to straighten that answer out a little bit, living in Bali is absolute magic.
Looks like your second home at the moment. You're so natural over here.
Yeah. I've been talking to my mum and then a lot of friends about just alternating between the two, getting a long multi-entry extension visa and then Airbnb my place back at home and then bouncing between the two. So when I first thought, I knew some people from back home that lived in Bali, and when I hadn't holidayed or traveled, the idea of that was so mind blowing. I thought, wow, like how are they living over in another country? That's so crazy. And now doing it, it is just so normal. Like the routine of getting around on a scooter, having, a shop wash your clothes, getting food ordered and delivered. Like it's just on lock routine. But Europe, I would not want to move or live in Europe unless I was restarting a life that didn't have a business based in Australia.
Yeah, someone so routine based like yourself too, jumping around Europe like you did. Absolutely chaos.
It was really hard.
That's good. So question 3, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good of a driver are you on the Bali roads?
10.
10.
Yeah, like that's just a typical Australian 22-year-old to say, but like I used to ride and race dirt bikes as a kid. So riding a scooter is so simple to me. And weirdly enough, the looser you are when you drive, where you're not uptight, you're not grabbing the brake, you're not freaking out. If you just flow with the traffic, it makes so much sense. A lot of the time, the crashes and all that dangerous shit happens of people overcompensating or being too uptight and grabbing the brakes and doing the horns. Like if you just flow with it and respect it, it's crazy. But yeah, I love it.
Smile at people, toot the horn nicely. And everything works out, eh?
Actually, this is an interesting contrast. When I first came to Bali, people kept tooting or horning me, and I'd have that privileged response of, what the fuck do you want? It's like back at home, if you get horned, it's like you're in trouble or you've done something wrong. And here I kept looking like, what the fuck do you want? But people would horn and then smile at you. It's like, here, they're just letting you know they're here. And this is why I love that idea of reality isn't what reality is. It's what you create it to be or what you're exposed to. So the reality of a horn back home is get the fuck out of the way or get off the fast lane. The reality of the horn here is, hey, I'm just coming up beside you. I just want you to safely know that. Unless you're a shit driver.
Yeah. That's good. Question 4. At what age do you wish to retire?
Ooh. I always used to joke around with my accountant, so shout out Brian, of saying I want to retire at 30. And he's like a very, very successful businessman. And he'd always laugh and be like, mate, there's no chance that's happening. I I used to want to retire earlier when I was working harder because the vision I had is, fuck, I can't upkeep this for a long time.
Yeah.
But the life I'm living right now, I have no plan to retire. Obviously, financially, I can't, and I'm nowhere near where I want to be. But like, I love the life and the routine I live now. I could do it forever. Not to sound cliche or corny, but coaching isn't a job for me.
Yeah, I've found that, honestly, since I started coaching in February. It doesn't, like when I was building, that was work. Like, as much as I did enjoy it,
Yep.
it was fucking work. Like labor intensive work, hard on your back, like 40-hour weeks cooked. Coaching, I feel like it's like, Yuli goes, oh, how was work? And it's like, it was really good. Like, there hasn't been a day where I've gone, oh, it was so shit. Because, like, there's nothing, I can't see any negatives about coaching.
Yeah, the only thing that feels like work to me in this space is just some of the background admin. So, like, balancing my accounts, tax times and things like that. But designing websites, editing podcasts, creating programs, in-person calls, all those things, none of that is a chore. So obviously they're obligations and they're things you have to show up for, but it's just, they're things I enjoy. Like I was saying to you earlier this morning, I'd love to be more busy because I love that chill, relaxed lifestyle of balance that I've been living, but it is in my DNA to be busy because I enjoy that grind and the progressive pursuit of building something.
Yeah, so pretty much to sum up that question, you wouldn't want to retire doing what you're doing now.
Yeah,
probably.
no, I'd love to retire people. I'd love to be able to like pay mortgages or, like be able to just go on 2-month long trips because the way I've set up a business can allow for that. I don't always want to be in person in the business, but to have set up a business where I can chime in and out, that would be fucking unreal.
Yeah. Question 5. If you could go back in time, when would you go back to?
That's a really good question. Dude, for the on the fly too, not that long ago cooking these up. There's two eras and they're probably not what you'd expect. And maybe it's just relevant because you're here and that's what came to my mind, but that's what rapid fire is. One is back in the school era with you. Back in the good old days where at that point in time it was stressful and it felt like work and all these things, but just having a laugh with you and being so innocent in what we thought was a stress back then compared to now. Innocence being having to do some homework after school, not managing businesses and, doing all these things. Or when we first started the gym.
Yeah,
just the effort we would put in, like skateboard down to the bus, 20-minute bus, skateboard from that bus stop into the gym, train for 2 hours, every body part, smack, the aminos that probably do fuck all, have like the extra BCA hydration powders and all those things, and then skateboard back. And we'd do that all after school.
Our bus stop was across from a Plus Fitness that we were going to at the time. Because the other gym had more machines and a better place to train, we would get the bus to Corrimal.
Yeah.
That's just wild.
Yeah, reflecting on that, I remember there was this one time, Corrimal, how far is Corrimal from Thirroul back in Australia?
In a car, probably about 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
What about kilometers in
kilometers,
distance?
It would probably be, I'd say 5K.
Yeah. So I remember I was so motivated when I first started. I woke up at 5 a.m. before school. So this is, what are you in school? 17 and under?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was probably 15.
We would have been 15, 16.
Yeah, I was probably 14, 15 because this was before we started going together. I got up at 5 a.m. It was pissing down rain jacket on and trackies, rode my bike to do a 2-hour gym session and then rode back in the rain and then went to school. Like it's just so wild reflecting on when something's a priority, you literally would make it work. Like I remember some of my classmates would struggle to make the bus. Yeah. And that's like 10 minutes before you have to get up, and there was people like you and me doing that shit at 15 and 16.
Like, as much as hard, like we train hard now, like don't get me wrong, we still push hard, but if I had what I had back then, the sessions we were doing, if you asked me to do one of those sessions now, it'd be like a back session was like 14 exercises.
Yeah.
You couldn't pay me enough to do that now.
Bro, 14 exercises of 4 sets too. This is actually a bit of advice for any viewer tuning in. One of my biggest tips would be to start any gym journey with a gaining phase. Everyone wants to start the gym to look better. And this is obviously individual and situational dependent. But if you're leaner, don't start the gym to build a bit of muscle to have abs and, some cap shoulders. Go all in on a gaining phase because you will build muscle the quickest when you first start. And also, it's an investment for your future. the longer you do something, the harder it is to make progress. So those first bits, you're making progress like crazy. And if you can mentally chime out going to the gym and looking average to build as much muscle as possible, in the position we're in 6, 7, 8 years later, you will be so proud of yourself for having done that. Because I wish I went into it gaining a little bit harder, because I'd probably be twice as big as I am now.
Yeah, that's too true.
Yeah.
We're really going off on these.
Yeah, I know. Bro, the hardest thing I do is I don't rapid fire myself.
I was going to elaborate on that one, but
we can chime back around.
Yeah. Question 6. What do you need to be happy? Need. Not want. What do you need to be happy?
Yeah.
So the essentials to be happy.
Yeah, I rate that. So there's, aside from the main things, obviously, like fucking shelter and, you know, all
Food
that stuff.
water,
In terms of the add-on factors, I would say good quality food, 1 or 2 really deep connection friendships or relationships, and then I would say growth and progress in some pursuit.
I was going to say, no wonder you're happy now. You've got those 3 things at the moment.
Yeah. I like, that's a
smile.
The reason I'm smiling is just thinking back of like what I would have said not that long ago. Because I was also doing those things 12 months ago, but I was fucking sad. So it's like, now I'm doing it. The only thing that's changed in between is self-development and learning to align with myself even more. So that's an interesting thing too. Just quickly, like what are your non-negotiables for happiness outside of the standards?
Exercise is a massive one. Without exercise, I don't think you can be happy. I think you can agree with me. I mean, your business is primarily built around
health and exercise.
And exercise. It's definitely exercise. A good relationship. You said deep connection with friendships. I think relationship and friendships is important for myself anyway. Obviously, it's all individual. And yeah, I think good food is a massive one. I notice when I'm eating shit, usually you feel shit. Like, it goes hand in hand. You're eating good foods, you're going to feel good. Like today we've eaten, probably more fruit than I've ever eaten back home. Bowl, like 2 fruit bowls, fruit, and like, you feel amazing.
Yeah.
Like, aside from the full sugar Red Bulls we got next to us.
Yeah, so anyone over the last recent episodes, don't at me for these, because they don't have sugar-free shit in Bali. They have sugar-free Cokes and maybe a Sprite, but you have to hunt them down. I just want to elaborate on what you said, even though we said we wouldn't. This is why, like, coaching for me is so valuable, because we just listed 3 things that we have a choice to do. Like, we can choose those things. You can choose to eat clean, you can choose to exercise, and you can choose a good relationship. People always sit there, sometimes in self-pity, but often feeling lost, feeling shit. Oh, you know, my life's average. I can't do anything about it. You know, like I don't know what to change. And it's like, if you ask those 3 things, do you eat clean? Nah, I don't. Do you eat good? No, I don't. Do you exercise? Not really, not often. You know, I lounge around or I scroll or whatever. Do you have good relationships? And the best way I could quickly decipher if someone has a good relationship is if they talk shit about their best mate.
That's a massive one.
Yeah,
that's
like
huge.
That instantly can just break apart my perspective of, if you're going to talk shit about your best friend to someone like me, I could only imagine what you would say about me behind closed doors. But for instance, if I'm going to talk shit or say something chirpy about you to a friend, it's nothing I wouldn't FaceTime and say it to you then and there.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Go on. Of course.
Question 7, bit more of a lighthearted one. What's your favorite carbohydrate?
Fruit. Yeah.
Yeah, I was expecting like a rice, pasta, or potato, but fruit's a good one.
Rice, being in Bali, rice is pretty goated, but yeah, fruit is just unmatched.
Yeah, that's I didn't expect that one. That's good.
Okay.
Good answer. Do you believe in love at first sight? Question 8.
Oh, that sounds like a Love Island intro. Like I'm being interviewed for that right now. I don't know. I can't comment on it. Have I experienced it? No. I mean, I definitely think you can have lust at first sight.
Yeah.
Like, I've definitely looked at girls or models throughout my life and gone, fuck, I love you. Like, just in that thing of like, you're so gorgeous. Or if you're doing something like exercising, it's like, I love the drive and I love, you know, that you're pursuing something. Yeah. But in terms of like knowing, having met someone, felt that, and then built a connection from it, I haven't experienced that. But dude, I'm 22. Like I haven't met and experienced many humans in that sense anyway.
Very good. Good answer.
You fucker.
Final question. Something I think might be a rattling question. Would you give up Instagram or give up podcasting?
Oh, that's a great question. I love both. I'm not even going to answer this rapid fire. Let me elaborate real quick. I love both. Instagram's such a bitch for me because I've tried so hard at it for so long and the growth on it has been steady, but I just haven't had that like breakthrough moment where it really reaches out versus like Instagram for me feels like a business. It's building a brand. It's building a business. Podcasting I enjoy. I earn fuck all from this. I've invested thousands in equipment, in studios, in traveling to do podcasting, like all those things. So that's cost me so much money and I wouldn't put money into something that isn't a passion. So I would actually give up Instagram and go all in on podcasting.
Yeah, that's what I thought your answer would be.
Yeah,
I know how passionate you are about doing this sort of stuff. I know Instagram can sometimes be a chore because like I've found out making content isn't easy. Making content is fucking hard.
Yeah.
As people, like I used to look at people and go, oh, you make content for a living. I was like, you got it good. I would do 40-hour-a-week labor work over content creation. Like content creation's fun, but it is also a chore. Like it is so hard to always be thinking of ideas. I might come up with one good idea every 2 weeks and then be bothered to make that video in a week's time.
Yeah. To
do that daily is fucking insane.
Yeah. Two things I want to say on that. The first thing, I chatted about this with the Alfie pod. If you guys haven't seen that, definitely go back and watch that. But the idea that a lot of the older generation don't call things like we do now online work because they relate work being lifting heavy shit, digging, you know, all that labor. But this shit is work. Like it's not that hard to set up a podcast and talk to your best mate, but mentally preparing for it, making sure things, you know, go well, even though that's not big work, it is still work involvement that is taxing in its own sense. The second thing too, just talking about frequency, one thing I always notice is everyone has the ability to be frequent, but people often only do it when they need something. If you're able to be a person that can build consistency and it be consistent, you're going to fucking kill it long term. So for instance, my following on the gram is small, but I'm so consistent with it. The inquiries coming through for my business are so often because it's always there versus, not to call the industry out, but you'll see a lot of coaches, they won't post for a period of time. And I always can register when a coach is low on clients because they usually then start blowing their gram up. They'll post transformations, they'll post this, they'll post that. And then they'll get a few clients from that and then they'll dwindle back off. And then they'll get a few and they'll dwindle. And that's why a lot of the time the industry has some absolutely fucking unreal coaches and great PTs, but they just won't ever break that threshold because rather than being consistent and stepping through, it's step up, step down, step down, step up, step down, step down, step up. And that's like a very interesting contrast, but social media is an absolute bitch.
Yeah, social media is definitely its own job separate to, so obviously you're a coach, you got your business in coaching, Future Self.
Yeah.
Social media, as like much as it is attached to your business, it is a job in its own. I've seen the behind the scenes of like, even now we're in Bali here, like Sam's over here, we're doing like reels and getting content. It was almost a full day in itself. Getting the camera out, finding a location, getting off the bikes, shooting the camera location, go back. Like it's a job in its own, even though it's for your Future Self business, it's like two separate jobs.
Yeah, firstly, shout out Sam David because I've had him employed over in Bali. This was a few weeks ago now that this episode's out as my full-time content creator. So he's been getting content every day. He's been part of all of what I do and it's been so useful. And this is a thing I reflect back to when it comes to investment, right? So this has cost me a decent investment, but I didn't really blink an eye at doing it because it's helped so much. It's relieved so much stress. It's been so inspiring, motivating, enjoyable. Some of my reels have done so well. And it's like, well, if I didn't invest that money, I'd still be in that high stress, trying to think of an idea, kind of average content. And that stems back to coaching, right? It's like people are in a position they don't like being in. They're either mentally struggling or they don't like how they look, but they won't do anything about it and they're not going to invest money into it. It's not that money always has to be invested into something, but if you have a coach that you've seen be so successful with so many people, or they're so good at what they do, or they're so lighthearted and would be great to have a part of your life, and you're sitting there depressed, complaining almost that there's nothing you can do. It's like, how can you not register that cost of whether it's hundreds or thousands or whatever it is, could change your life forever. You might do one stint working with a coach and that changes everything for you. It's like, how the fuck does that dollar conversion not be related?
Yeah, it's a big my favorite quote is buy once, cry once. It's
Yeah.
the kind of thought process of, let's just say, for instance, like something like a bike pump to pump up your tires.
Yeah.
You buy a shitty bike pump, you might get 2 pumps out of it, it's going to break. You continue to buy the shitty pump, you might buy 5 shitty pumps. By the time you buy 5 shitty pumps for $20, you spend $100. You just bought a $100 pump at the start, it won't break and it'll end up costing less. Same with your business. If you invest in a videographer now, get all this good content, as soon as that content starts making money, it might be in a year, might be in 2 years, but it'll be worth it. From that point, yes, you've outlaid that money now, but when it comes back around, it'll be all worth it. Where if you try to skimp out on your own, well, not your own stuff, but not pushing the next level of content, you'll only stay at this same place and that it will never come back around.
Yeah. So I love what you just said, because I have a quote that the poor man pays twice, and it links into that directly. Now, this has nothing to do with whether you're wealthy or poor, but it's that idea of someone might look at a coach like me and go, oh, that's too expensive. I don't want to work with you. And then go spend half the amount on a 12-week challenge. They do the challenge, get a result, go back to where they started, probably in a worse position. And then they end up reaching out going, oh, I'm ready for some actual real change. Can we work together? So instead of just investing from the jump in something they know would work, they skimped out, took a shorter investment, and ended up having to be buying that investment as well as the coach instead of just the coach from the get-go.
Buy once, cry once.
Yeah.
And they could have been on that steady stepping stone progression. Yeah. Just wanted to ask you a question to wrap things up. Your time in Bali, obviously you've been here for quite a bit now, probably about a month since you got back from Europe.
Yeah.
2-3 weeks. What's your plans? Are you planning on staying here for longer? I know you're coming back home in October. Is that just a visit? Are you going to come back here? I know this is like a second home for you now and you love it here. Or are you going to stay back home and try build your business up back home? I know you're not doing face-to-face hours now. Obviously, you're doing all online. Yeah. Will you go face-to-face back home? Will you stay online? Will you come back overseas? Will you go somewhere different? Like, what's next for you yourself and also future self as a brand?
Yeah, it's sick to be able to answer that. So, like, for the first time in a longer period of my life, I haven't had massive goals to check off. The moving out was one, then the car, then buying my own apartment, setting up X amount of figure business. They've always been goals. I have a direction now and I'm really starting to fine tune that direction. So it's been a bit up in the air. I have to come home in October. That's a guarantee because my lease is up for someone staying in my house. So I need to sort that out. I have a feeling I'm going to do one of two things. And this, I'll give you guys some insight of it. It's not necessarily private, but it's been what I've been reflecting on behind closed doors. It's either going to be set up an Airbnb type system and bounce between a long extension visa here, living here, 2 months, then go home, back my own place, come back here, going back, and just building, the podcast, the coaching, bouncing between international and regional back in the Illawarra. The only thing about that is the uncertainty of location. I do like routine and I do like direction and known consistency. I don't crave a lot about home except the people, but I do crave the studio and the consistency. I would love to revamp the studio to actually be a full podcast with a nice backdrop and a proper office and all of that. If I don't go that route, because time's going really quick and I don't want to go back home. When I was in Europe, I was craving home. I really wanted to come back earlier. Now I'm in Bali. I don't want to come back. Time's going so quick that it feels like October's around the corner. And I would have seen everyone that matters minus a handful of people, you, my mum, some of my clients have come over and things like that. The other route I have is come home, knuckle down in a sense of what I almost used to be like, but controlled a bit better, work super, super hard, maybe create some courses or some guidebooks and, create some third person where I'm not actually in the work structures towards my business where they can just do their own thing, stay at my place and then do an American trip. So Sam coming over was part of testing as well as helping with content. But also it was to see if it's possible for him to potentially in the future, when my business gets bigger, become a full-time videographer and social media assistant. So I would love to do the same Europe trip I did, but in America, network like fucking crazy, go to LA, talk to the big fitness influencers, try and get podcasts, like really branch out. And then after that, it would be deciding on what I want to do. So I actually don't know. All I know is I want to network. I want to keep being curious and asking questions. I want to keep coaching people, high ticket and some low ticket entries, so people aren't left out. And I want to create some group based things. So I'm relaunching, which probably is launched now, the subscription. I preset that for months, so I haven't touched it at all. It's just been running on its own thing. But I want to tap back into it, level it up and upgrade it. So, every fortnight there's a call that we all jump on. So it's not just a program. I want to do some sort of group webinar, because I can only do one-to-one calls with one person. And I don't want to do, semi-privates where it's 2 or 3. I'd love to have 5, 10, 15, 20, even 30 people in it and be able to impact more people. But for now, it's just growing my socials, networking, having fun, and just continuously figuring out myself what I want and where I want to go. But I still want to be a millionaire, retire my family, go on big trips in the future, and have like a massive podcast for sure.
It's exciting, man.
Dog, let's wrap this up. I appreciate you coming on. So good to see you in Bali. Even if I only get to see 2 or 3 times, I won't be that long till I'm back home. Actually, weirdly enough, because this is pre-recorded, this is probably going to launch when I am back home. So I don't even know when this episode's coming out, because I have quite a few backlogged and banked up.
8 weeks, 2 months, August, September, October. Yeah, you'll probably be home.
Yeah, that's super interesting. But guys, if you tuned in on YouTube, forgive me. This is in my homestay. I know the backdrop's not absolutely amazing, but definitely not an opportunity I wanted to pass up. And then if you're on Spotify, you don't fucking know it, but I still love you for tuning in. We will see you guys in the next one. Thank you. Nice dog.